Katy Galton, the nutrition educator at the Interfaith Food Pantry. Welcome to our Healthy Choices Kitchen. I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for new recipes, new ideas for meals to make them a little bit more interesting. So today I have a recipe for breakfast. I'm going to be making egg frittatas. It's a recipe that's a little bit different, but easy, and one that you can make ahead and have ready to grab and go in the morning for you. So let's get started on, forgot one thing. Just want to tell you also that we're also going to be thinking about calcium. We'll be talking a little bit about the importance of calcium, including that in your diet every day, starting with breakfast. So let's get started on the recipe. The recipe is called vegetable frittata muffins. Now, don't be tricked and think that that means it's going to be cakey like a muffin. It's not. But what it means is that it's going to be a muffin shape. We're going to make it in a muffin pan. And so we're going to get started, the first thing, greasing the muffin tins, because that is really, really important. Otherwise, you're going to have a little bit of trouble getting those frittatas out. So I'm going to take my muffin tin, and let's see. I'm going to use some spray oil, but you could also use canola oil or olive oil. Put a little bit on a paper towel and just rub it onto the, like I said, it's important that you do this or else they're going to stick and it's going to be a little hard to get them out. Spray each one. And I even like to take my paper towel then and just go around the tin a little bit. These are also non-stick pans, and if you have those, that will make it a little bit easier to do also. So our pan is going to be ready to go when we're ready for it. If you didn't have those, you could also get these. These are the individual cupcake liners. These are the ones that are metallic. You wouldn't want to use the paper ones, but these you can will sit up nicely by themselves and you could fill them too. So that's an alternative if you don't have a pan like that. Next thing I'm going to do is get our vegetables ready. The recipe includes vegetables that we're going to saute and then be adding some eggs and milk to the recipe. So I've heated up my pan a little bit. I'm going to add the oil, get the oil warmed up. And then I've mixed together, I've chopped my red peppers and onions. Those are going to be the vegetables we're going to add. And then I'm also going to be putting some broccoli into it. Now you'll notice the recipe says to dice these. That means you want to cut them into small pieces. If you can see, they're not great big pieces because you want them to be small. They're going to fit into that little muffin size container. I'm going to be adding broccoli as well. So for this, you could use fresh broccoli or you could use frozen broccoli. I'm using frozen because it's just so easy to use. I've had it out of the refrigerator or the freezer a little bit, and as you can see, these are big pieces. I don't want big pieces like that. I want them to be similar size to the pieces of my peppers and onions. So I'm going to take my broccoli and just chop that up a little bit. Now when I made this at home, I took the broccoli right out of the freezer and just went to chop it. That was hard, so what I did was I put it in the microwave just for about 30 seconds to get it soft. And that helped it, made it easy to get that chopped. So we're just going to get this chopped. But you can see this has been out of the freezer for, just maybe 10 minutes at most. And it's not thawed completely, but it's easy to just cut into the size pieces that we're going to use. Now, one nice thing about this recipe is you can use any kind of vegetables that you want. You don't have to use these specific ones. Especially if you have some leftover vegetables, you could add them to it. I'm thinking asparagus would be nice. You could add some carrots. You do want to cook them a little bit or soften them though a little bit before you add them to the recipe. So that's what we're doing here. So my broccoli's ready. My oil should be heated up. Let's see. Yep, it's ready. I can hear the sizzle. If you have different color peppers, that's nice too. We always want to get as many colors in as we can with our vegetables. And there again, you look at this, the broccoli, the red peppers, it's just beautiful. So we'll let those cook. It's not going to take very long. As I said, we don't need to cook them all the way through, but we do just want them to soften a little bit. So while these are cooking, let's just talk about calcium for a minute. We know that it's important, and I think most people, when they hear about calcium, the first thing that comes to mind is we need calcium for our bones and teeth, and that's really important. That is a super important function of calcium, to keep our bones strong, to keep our bones healthy. But you may not know that calcium has a lot of important roles in our body. It's important for blood clotting. It's important for our nerve and muscles to keep them working well. And if we think about muscles in our body, our heart is one of the biggest muscles. Calcium helps keep our heart healthy and keeps our heart working well too. So while it's important for bones, it has many important functions in our body. And it's so important that our body has figured out a way to make sure that we always have it. And that's why we store it in our bones. So if we're not taking enough calcium in, our body goes to the bones and pulls out the calcium that we need. So that's why it's really important that we take in the calcium, that we get calcium in our diet every day. Those are cooking, they're getting there, they're not quite done yet. So I'll just keep stirring them around a little bit. And while they're cooking, I'll go to the next step, which is to combine our eggs and milk. So let's just think about eggs. The recipe calls for 8 eggs, which I've already, as you can see, cracked them. One thing I just want to mention with eggs is sometimes people are confused or think that the date on the end of the egg carton is the last date that you can use the eggs. That's not true. You can use eggs and should remain at good quality for about at least 3 weeks after that date. So if you haven't had eggs for a while, you pull your egg carton out of the refrigerator and you see, oh my goodness, it's already just at that date, or a day past, I can't use these eggs. Not true. Feel free, go ahead and use them if they've been stored properly. Another important thing with eggs is you always want to clean your work area after you've been working with the eggs, because eggs can be a source of salmonella. So you want to wash your hands well, and you want to wash your counter well. So just a few things to keep in mind with eggs. Now I'm kind of excited to show you this. I just learned this. So see what you think about this. All my life, I've been cracking eggs on the side of the bowl. Well, in just doing a little bit of reading, I found out there's other ways you can crack them. So this is a new way, which I've been doing the last couple weeks, and I really like it. So I'll just show it to you and see what you think. If you want to try it out. I'm just going to take my egg. I'm going to crack it on the counter. I'm not going to smash it, but I'm going to give it a crack, and then I'll be able to just pull the egg apart. What I was finding was when I was cracking on the side of a pan or the side of a bowl, I was getting little eggshells into the egg when it went into the bowl. So I found this way I really don't. So see what happens. I'm going to give it a crack. You can see it just gives it a little bit of an opening, and then you can just pull it apart with your fingers, with your thumbs actually, and fingers, and put it in. Now, like I mentioned, I'm going to have egg on my counter now, so I am going to clean up my counter. I'm going to whisk my eggs. Oh, I better check these vegetables. Yep. They're just about done. Let's see. They're looking, you can see the onion has gotten a little opaque, as they say. And they're not browned, they don't need to be, but they're going to be ready to put in our muffins. So I'm going to whisk my eggs. And then I'm going to be adding some milk. I like to use low-fat milk. This is 1% milk, and this is half a cup of milk. So here we're using milk. We know milk is a great source of calcium. So we're getting a little bit of calcium in this frittata that we're making. I'm going to put a little bit of salt and pepper in. It's up to you, your flavorings. This is also a place, if you like other seasonings, you could add other seasonings at this point. If you like Italian flavored, you could add some dried oregano, or you could also add some fresh herbs, some fresh basil. Okay, so that's done. I did add the milk, which I mentioned. I know some people don't like to drink milk, or for medical reasons really can't drink milk. You could use a milk substitute in this as well. Almond milk, soy milk, oat milk, whatever you like. Just want to say, if you are using those milk substitutes, make sure and check the label to make sure that they have calcium added to them. Products from oats and nuts don't naturally have as much calcium as the milk. So you're going to get that calcium added, hopefully. But it's not the same for all the different milk alternatives. So you really need to find on the label where it says calcium, and it will tell you how much calcium is in it. You also want to make sure that some vitamin D has been included, because that helps absorb the calcium. Okay, so I think we're just about ready to put this together. I'm going to be putting the vegetables in each cup. I'm going to put about a tablespoon in each cup. And then I'm going to be adding the egg mixture. And then I'm going to be topping it with cheese. So it's really important to get calcium at every age. General recommendation or guideline for calcium is to get, for those between 19 and 50, to get 1,000 milligrams a day. There are two age groups that the recommendation is higher, and you might be able to guess what they are. One is kids or children between the ages of 9 and 18. That's when their bones are growing really fast, and so they need that calcium to support their bone growth. And it's also when you're really storing up that calcium in your bones, laying a good, getting a good supply as you go into your adult years. The other age so their guideline or recommendation is about 1,300 milligrams a day. The other age group that needs a little bit more is those over 50, because as we age, our bone density gradually begins to decrease. So we need to be taking calcium in to try to keep our bones strong at that age. Okay, so we've got the vegetables in. Now we're going to put the milk in. I'm just going to take about, this is about 1/4 cup, put it in. There. Maybe you've heard of osteoporosis, and that's what happens, especially as we get older. As our bone density becomes lower, and then our bones get weaker and are more readily, easier to have break bones in that condition. Okay, we're almost there. We have one more thing we're going to add to these. Just fill in where there's a little bit more room. Okay. Leave just a little bit of room for the, oh, here's one I can fill in. Oops. My last ingredient is cheese. Who doesn't love cheese? So we're going to put this on the top. Once again, I always try to use a lower fat cheese to reduce my saturated fats. And I'm going to cover the top of each one with my cheese. Now, again, we're talking about dairy products and calcium. Cheese is a good source of calcium also. That dairy family, cheese, yogurt, milk, is really one of the top sources for calcium, for getting calcium every day. Right. Been a little messy here, so I am just going to clean that cheese up because I know what's going to happen if I get that in the oven. It's going to burn on my pan, and that's going to be a mess to clean up, so I don't want that. Okay, that's it. All we have to do now is put these in the oven. They're going to bake for 12, 15, 16 minutes. You'll want to check them after 12, 13 minutes. You want them to be set. You don't want them to, if you shake the pan, you don't want to see any jiggling there. You want them to be firm. And the texture is going to be more like kind of like an omelet inside when you're finished. So I'm going to go put these in the oven, put the timer on. So let's think about the ingredients that we had in the egg frittatas that include calcium. We know there was milk, and we know there was cheese. However, there's another ingredient that we use that might surprise you that's a source of calcium, and that's the broccoli. So like I mentioned, dairy is a good source of calcium, and you can get good amounts of calcium from those products, but it's not by any means the only food source of calcium. Dark leafy greens are a good source of calcium as well. So collard greens, broccoli, kale, all contain calcium. I tell you, the dark leafy greens, they are just abundant in good things for us. Some of the canned fish are good sources of calcium. This is canned salmon, canned sardines. The reason the canned salmon is a good source, it's a good source if you use the salmon that has the bones in it. Because, and that's, I know that sounds a little funny, but if you've not had the canned salmon with the bones, they really, they just disintegrate when you eat them, and you get the calcium from those bones. So, canned salmon, sardines, good source of calcium. Then there's products that we call fortified products. That means they've had the calcium added to them, like our milk alternatives, like the soy milk, like the almond milk. Orange juice is one. So you can see right here, with added calcium and vitamin D. And you can look right on the label again, and it's going to tell you how much calcium has been added. 340 milligrams, which is actually a little bit more than you get in a cup of milk. You get about 300 milligrams in a cup of milk. Another great dairy product that's a good source of calcium are the yogurts. We have the plain yogurts. These are both plain in that they don't have sugar, but we have the regular yogurt and we have a Greek yogurt. The regular yogurt actually has more calcium, a little bit more calcium in it than the Greek yogurt. But the trade-off is the Greek yogurt has more protein in it than the regular yogurt. But they're both good sources of calcium, both good for you. So whichever you prefer, enjoy that one. This is the dried milk, which also has calcium. I put this here just because it's another way that if you want to add a little bit of calcium, if you're baking, if you're making oatmeal, just put a tablespoon of it into it, whatever you're eating, and you're giving yourself just a little boost of calcium. The last thing, this is another place where you might find foods fortified or with added calcium. Could be cereals. For example, this one has a little bit of calcium added, 130 milligrams added to it. So again, if you're a label reader, that's where you're going to find your answer of how much calcium is in the products that you're eating. Here are egg frittatas. I did make these earlier. When they bake, they will puff up a little bit and then they'll sink down a little bit. So don't be surprised if when you take them out of the oven they look a little bigger. That's normal that they would shrink down a little bit. So I have to say they don't come out quite as easily as I just took it out. As I mentioned, I've made these previously. You'll need to go around the edge with a knife or with a spatula, whatever fits in there to get them out. But this is what you're going to end up with. It's a lovely little muffin, egg muffin. And let me just pull it apart so you can see what the texture is. These are great if you make them one morning and then can't eat them all. You can put them in the refrigerator and then have them the next morning to just pull out, heat in the microwave for 30 seconds, and you're ready to go. You also can freeze them, put them in a freezer bag or freezer container, and then pull them out when you're ready for them. I found when I've had them at home, they make a great snack. Because if you have them in the refrigerator and you're kind of hungry midday, eat one of these, you're getting protein, and so it gives you fills up your stomach and is giving you all good foods for you. So I hope you'll try them and enjoy them. And remember to eat calcium every day, all through the day, all through your life.